Hello YouTubers, welcome back to the shop. Project we got for you this week is this root ball. Real dead, real dried out. A very good friend of mine, John Carter. I've mentioned it before, he quite often drops some wood round to me. It's very much appreciated, John, because he always manages to find something rather unusual for me, and this is no exception. This is a bit of an odd shape. It's a bit, ideally it would have been rounder. This is quite long, so I need to trim off both of these edges. So I think the first thing I need to do is get it on the bandsaw and get it nice and round, because I need to put it into a round mould and then fill it with some resin. Well, YouTubers, I've taken it over onto the bandsaw, I cut it down. I didn't actually bring it back and I put it on the lathe because it was such a odd shape, and I've actually led it in. You see that's the top of the tree there, and I've actually led it in sideways because it's a much better fit. But I thought, being a root ball, there's going to be grain going all ways, hopefully it shouldn't make any difference. I'll just get and pour some resin in there. So first thing, I put a spray the release agent in there. So now I'm ready to start with the resin. First thing I'm going to do is just drop the root ball into the bowl. And what I want to do is just put some tape across the top, because wood will float in resin, and if you don't hold it down it will bob away and float to the top, and you'll have a big bowl of resin with a lump of root ball floating on top of it. So I'm just putting some partial tape over the top of it just to hold it in place. So I'm now ready to start with my resin pour. Now I always do this by weight. I think it's a lot more accurate, although if you've got measuring cups it should stay the same, because it's 100 grams of resin to 45 grams of hardener. If you do it by volume, it's 100 grams, or 100 millilitres rather, to 50 millilitres. So I guess the hardener must weigh more. I always use glass cast 50 for my resin pours. That allows you to pour up to 50 millilitres, 50 millimeters, or 2 inches thick mould, which is ideal. And I also use a glass cast because that's supposed to be one of the better ones on the market for if you haven't got pressure mould, which a pressure pot, which I haven't, or a vacuum chamber. I don't have either. Generally when I use this, it's not often I get bubbles in there. I might get an odd one, but generally there's no bubbles in it. It's quite good stuff. I've been using it for a while now, and I do like it. It works very well. So the other thing I'm putting in this, you do have to make sure you mix it up very well, and what I'm using with this is some dyes. My daughter bought me these for Christmas about 2 years ago. They're very good dyes. There's about 40-50 in a box. They do go a long way. You don't need very much of it. And what I like about it is it gives you like a white mineral ripple running through there, which really does give it a real depth of colour when you put it in. It's really good stuff. So give it a really good mix in, and then pour away. So now I'm just getting ready to pour this in. And what I do, pour it in very slowly, and then I'll just pick the pot up with the first pour I put in. That's 100 grams and 45 grams of the hardener. And I'll just pour that in, and I'll just gently rotate the pot, just then agitate it around, so if there's any air bubbles hiding anywhere, you should be able to just work them out from between the cracks of the wood, and just let them come to the surface. I did see somebody on YouTube one time when they actually used rice, and they poured in however much rice filled up the gaps. They knew that was how much resin they had to use, which I thought was very clever. you can see I'm pouring this in, and if you just look to the right of the left of the screen there, you can see it just seeping round, and to the right it's just seeping round and just filling up all the voids. The other thing somebody did suggest to me, which was a very good tip, and I can't remember who it is at the moment, but thank you very much for the advice. They did say if you take the wood and coat it with resin beforehand, it seals the wood and it stops any air bubbles coming out of the wood at a later date, which I thought was very good advice, so thank you for that. And I'm sorry I can't remember your name. So in the end I mixed up 2 lots of 100 grams and then a 50 grams, and it was just enough to fill that pot up. I quite like that sky blue. That's almost like glacial water, like the runoff, that lovely sort of chalky light blue colour. I do like that, and I've only put a very small amount on, so it's still quite transparent, so you should still be able to see the wood through it. I'll leave that for a couple of days, let that harden off. Well, there you go, YouTubers, I've left that for a couple of days. It's gone off nicely. It's been so hot this recently, I just think it's cured pretty much straight away. So I've got the bowl at the mould, and I've got it set up in my lathe. I've never turned a root bowl before to fit into the bowl, but it is a very good idea because I've got my centre already there where I had my screw chuck, and it's just a matter of finding the centre at the other end, and it's all turning nice and smoothly. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to turn around where that wood is on the right hand side. I'm going to turn that away first so that I can get a my 4-jaw chuck on there. I've got a large set of jaws which will hold that nice and securely for me, and then I won't have to worry. I didn't want to go too far in because some of that wood where that screw chuck is, that really quite soft, really quite punky wood in there, so I want to stay a little bit away from that if I can. But I have to say that outer wood, where that's dried out so much, that really is hard wood to turn. It really is. So let's turn all that away, and I'll get that down into my chuck as soon as possible so that it's held nice and securely. So I've got the 10 on this end now. I've swapped that out, put my big chuck jaws in there. That's held nice and securely in there now, and I can turn that without worrying about it. Just gone over there with a negative rake scraper, and that does cut that resin a hell of a lot better than a conventional cutting tool. If I do any more of this, I think I'd buy myself some carbide tip tools, because they do seem to cut a lot better. Right, let's just get and sand that up. I'll get back to you when I've done that, because that takes ages to sand all that down. So I've sanded that all down now to 400 grit Abrinet, and now I'm going to come in with some Yorkshire grit. And I'm not sure, I must look up online and see what grit this is, because it's a mixture of beeswax, some oils and some carborundum paste, very very fine carborundum paste, so it is a cutting compound. But you see now I'm putting that on there, that's really bringing the grain and that root ball out, and it's really making that resin shine as well. Really is good stuff. As I say, I'm not sure what size grit they recommend that is, because if I've sanded it to 400 and that's only something like a 300 grit, there's no point in using it. You're actually stepping backwards. So what you do, obviously you apply it with the piece stationery, and then you just spin it up, and you can actually hear it, it's cutting as it's spinning around, and you can feel the drag on the cloth as well, so you know that it's doing its job. Just work some heat into that, let the wax do its job, then just get a clean bit of cloth, and I'm putting some more on. Giving it another go, so if I never had enough on there the first time. And then just working that back and forth, and then we get a clean bit of cloth, and then we buff it up and make sure that all the grit and everything that was in there is all taken off. So you need to do it 2 or 3 times with a piece of clean cloth until we're getting no residue on that cloth or paper towel whatsoever. Next up, I'm going to use some burnishing cream. This is made by Chestnut. Again, this is a very very fine abrasive. This is almost like anybody who does any work on any cars or anything like that, it's almost like a T-cut. It does work very good on the ebonising spray. If you put that on, that really polishes that up nice. It's really fine. Again, just apply it to the piece with the piece stationery. Make sure you get a good coat on there. Plenty on the cloth. Make sure the cloth's saturated. You want to give if it's been standing for any length of time, give the burnish and cream a really good shake up, because I'm sure the whatever particles that does the cutting, they all settle to the bottom. So it's exactly the same process. Apply it all with a piece of stationery, and then just buff it up. Keep it working backwards and forwards until you can feel you've taken it all off, and then use a clean piece of cloth and just buff it up again. Right, so I've got that reversed in the chuck. That wood, some of it in the middle was a bit really punky, really soft. That outer wood is extremely hard, and now I'm going to start coming around hitting the resin as well. So I'm going to be going soft hard resin. That's be all over the place. So to give myself a bit of a fighting chance, I'm going to put my forcing bit, my large forcing bit. I think it's about 70mm. I'm going to put that down through the middle and just take the centre out. And now to hollowing. The cutting tool I'm using at the moment is something I made myself. I bought a set of carbide tips off the internet. I think 12 cost me £12. They were quite cheap, and I went down to Steel Stockist down in Southampton. I bought 3 meters of 16mm bar. I think that was about £15, something like that, £10. It's quite cheap. And this primarily, the piece that I'm using at the moment was my hollowing tool. But I find those carbide tip tools, they do work better on resin. Those negative, I think it's a negative scraper that does it. They do cut a lot better. And you see this is hogging through that wood and that resin, and it doesn't seem to matter what it's cutting, it just rips it all out. So I think what I might do is go online and buy some different shaped carbide tip tools, make myself a little set of tools, because they do work extremely well. What I do like about these, particularly for hollowing, you can see that it chips it, you get small pieces. So if you're hollowing, I had a ring cutter before that I used to use, and I used to get with long streamers of wood, and they're really difficult to get out of a small hole, whereas this sort of tends to chip it up into small pieces, and then you can just hoover them straight out. But it does work extremely efficient. I'm ever so pleased with this. And like all carbide tip tools, when that cutting edge is dull, just loosen it off, turn it around 20, 30 degrees, whatever, and you've got a fresh cutting edge. So I'll just carry on now, just carry on hollowing this out. I have now swapped to my half round scraper. I normally use this inside of bowls, just like finishing, cleaning up. Again, they're negative rake scrapers, and that was ripping it out really quick. And they don't differentiate at all between the wood and the resin. They just take it all away. You can see the amount of wood coming out there. Very efficient cut. Well, I've finished hollowing now, and I've finished sanded up to 400, and now I'm going back in with some Yorkshire grit. Again, you can see this really brings a grain out. It looks lovely as soon as you apply that on there. Really does look good. So it was pretty much the same. I'm going to put that on, go through clean cloths, take it all off again, go through with burnishing cream and take that down again, then sand sealer, then wax. Exactly the same as I did with the outside, just to give me a lovely, clean, smooth finish. And now that's all finished, I'm going to turn that around. I'm going to mount that in my cold jewels and just take that tenon away on the bottom. That's all mounted in the cold jewels, and I'm just very gently going to take that foot off. There you go, YouTube world. A really nice bowl. Really enjoyed doing that. Everything went very easy on there. Apart from hitting the stones when I was trimming the roots up and ruining my bandsaw blade. But apart from that, it went very well. Very pleased with that. That does look like ice running through there. And as you see, that's just enough so you see through. Beautiful finish. Lovely root ball, beautiful pattern in there, lovely configuration. Right down in the bottom there. It's almost like you've got a burr in there where you get that grain running every direction. So there we go, another project all done. Hope you enjoyed it. As usual, hope you enjoyed watching it half as much as I enjoyed making it. If we have, we both have a good day. So I've been Steve Howard, you look after yourself, and I'll see you all again next week. Bye bye.